It is August 8th, and it's 10 o'clock in the morning. And I'm John Hamrick. Carol Dunn is here, Doug Cohen is here, Kirk Suter is here, Emily Tracy's here, Kathy Worthington is here, and we have Ryan. John Vito. And we have Nick. I'm gonna fade away on his last name.
No worries, Wagner.
Wagner. Wagner and Steve Andrews.
Andrea, did you say already talked?
Yes.
I did. Gee whiz.
Shane, what?
The good and bad part was. And the, does anybody have any other business? If we have any that's really pressing or anything that you'd like to bring up at this point? I know, good. Yes, sir.
Steve,
Yes, Steve.
Following up on Kathy's solar bill, I had said I would bring in a bill and go over stuff, but we can do that. I would suggest at the end of your meeting.
Okay,
Rather than.
that'll work. All right.
Get that full screen here somewhere. Let me see if the mic's on.
Good morning.
Is there, hey Julie,
We're Joy.
is there a Mike Harrington on by chance?
Right now, it's just the two of us.
Okay.
Okay.
Lucas has joined us.
Sorry, I did full circle. It's like, where do I sit?
Anywhere you'd like. And nobody online, is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, so why don't John and Nick, if you guys want to lead us off here, we realize that your substitutes today will make it a little bit easier.
Thank you.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, we are the B team, unfortunately, but we can certainly get Eric back down here. He had a family emergency this morning, unfortunately, so you do have to deal with me trying to muddle through this presentation, but Eric has been our program manager for about 9 months now, working on the EV programs, and he is not just Colorado, but our entire enterprise for EVs. So, so he's very, very passionate guy about the EVs, electric vehicles. Has been out beating the bushes and talking to cities, talking to people, and trying to get our program pushed as best he can. But yeah, sends his regrets, and like I said, you'll have to deal with me and John this morning and Julie. I did send the invite to my director, our director of Reg and Finance, who actually put the program together and ran it through the PUC. Hopefully he has a chance to jump on. So if there are questions I can't answer, which undoubtedly there will be, he can answer them, or we'll get back to you on our answers. So
Did you mention Eric's last name?
Eric Lundeen.
Lundy.
Yes.
Lundeen.
That is correct. Yep. And he is out of our Palmer Lake office.
That's too good.
I was just gonna say he's pretty lucky being up there. Yes, he is.
So,
So maybe start
Yeah,
with,
go ahead.
hi, sorry. So maybe start with just a quick reintroduction. You've met Nick before. He's Vice President, Regulatory and Finance. Some of you may not know Julie. Julie Rodriguez is a Community Affairs Manager like myself. We kind of split responsibilities across the state, and so you'll likely to see one or both of us at times. So she was able to join us today. Julie, thanks for coming in. And I think that what I'd like, maybe Nick, if you don't mind starting with just kind of the why, like,
Yeah.
why does this program exist? What does it mean? Why should they care?
much like we talked about the clean energy plan, we did this program because the state told us we had to. We had EV programs in place before that, however, in most of our electric territories, but in Colorado, it's formalized through a filing to the PUC. And we went through the whole process of putting our programs together. We've got programs for residential, in commercial, not so much industrial, but we are working, but we do have a couple we'll get into it in the slides, a couple parts of the program that are rather flexible, so that if you do have needs, we can work with you and develop kind of a custom program. But mostly, like I said, was the formal program is required by the state, by law. And so it was approved, I want to say about a year ago now. So we've been putting that program together, and we are required to file these plans, I think every 2 years. So we'll be in the process of putting another plan together here pretty soon, hopefully, with a lot of what we've learned about what we're seeing with the programs and participation that we've got today. So that's really the why, but we do believe too that as we look at electric vehicles, certainly gaining popularity with our customers and across not only the state, but the nation. And so it's a program that we think is important to have in place to help our customers as things transition, or if they want to transition to electric vehicles.
Yeah, thank you. And I think, one of the key things that we want to hone in on is looks like Mike Harrington is on. He's an
Good.
attendee now. I don't know if you would mind promoting him, Ryan, as well. I think one of the biggest takeaways for you all here is this is in its infancy. There are opportunities to work with the city and specifically cities and governmental agencies, things like the school districts. There's a lot of money coming down at the federal and state level. And this is an opportunity to try and really customize, programs that make sense for you as a community. So whether it be really focusing on tourism and trying to bring people into downtown based on where you put charging stations, or electrifying the fleet for the city, which may or may not be popular, but the reality is there's so much coming down that you could potentially replace vehicles cheaper than you could with than a gas engine. And then you're kind of reducing the maintenance of your fleet costs, fleet cost maintenance as well. And so I would just ask this group in general, this is a customer facing program. It's paid for with customer dollars, as you know. So as you listen, think about how we can interact with the city and how we can benefit the community as a whole.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things too that we're finding is generally when we go out and talk about this program, people focus on the individual, because that's kind of what we tend to think about, right, with EVs. But there are certainly opportunities, as John said, for fleets, for businesses, cities, that type of thing. So think maybe kind of in those terms as well. Things that we've seen across the country, different cities doing their public transportation, or if they've got like a city trolley or a city bus that runs up and down Main Street or something like that, electrifying that. One of the ones that's been hugely successful is down in Arizona, in Tucson. There is and I'm drawing a blank on the name of the canyon, but there's a canyon that has a little tram that would go up and down the canyon as a tour thing, and so Tucson Electric worked with that entity to electrify that little tram. So now it's electric instead of gas, and so helps the environment there, and the right directly related to nature, as you've got an electric vehicle going back and forth through the canyon versus a gas vehicle. So things like that have been very successful as well. Like I said, people tend to think about their own uses with an EV, but there are certainly opportunities elsewhere. So yes.
Nick, is this another unfunded mandate, or is it who's ever mandating that you provide EV charging stations? Are they at this point providing any financial assistance for you guys to develop this type thing, or is it just, they say, guess what, guys, you get to do this, but we're not helping you.
It's funded, but it's funded by the customers. Yes, yes, yeah, so the program, so when we go through the program, again, we submit it to the, and there's a charge on your bill directly related to this program, yeah, so it goes again through the PUC, we submit a plan, parties intervene, we go through, and then the PUC approves whatever plan we have. And so then it does go on to bills, and customers do pay for the program. So it's funded from that standpoint. It's not funded by those who said you have to do this. So kind of an unfunded mandate from that perspective, but funded by the customers.
Thank you.
You ready?
0.579 cents per meter, I believe.
You could, yeah, if you
According to
got the
my
bill, that's one of those specifics I don't know. And I will point out too, Mike Harrington is on the phone, or on the, in the meeting. He is, like I said, is our Director of Regulatory and Finance. He is in the Denver office as well. He was very instrumental in putting this program together. And Eric actually reports to him. So Mike will be able to answer the very specific questions that you guys might have that, like I said, that undoubtedly I will not be able to answer. So anyway, and we'll take note if there's any questions too that we can't answer, and we'll get back to you on those as well.
By the way, that I should have said per kilowatt hour, not per meter.
But yeah, I was gonna say it's not by meter. I think it's by, it's a
kilowatt. It's
volumetric charge.
volumetric.
Yeah. So this slide, I think we can, I mean, I'll go through very quickly. I think most of us generally know EVs or electric vehicles. There are a couple different types. There's hybrids that have a gas engine and are electric. And then you've got some that are all electric. And that's obviously you gotta rely on the electric only. Charger types, and I don't, if you ask me about specific miles per gallon or equivalent miles per gallon, I do not know those details.
I can share that with you.
Okay.
So,
John,
so a level one charger will charge, about 3 to 5 miles an hour. So if you have a level one charger, that's just a regular 110 outlet. It'll charge about 3 to 5 miles an hour. If you have a level two charger, that is up somewhere between 209 or 205 and 240 volt outlet. So similar to like what you see for a range, if you will. That will get you about 25 miles an hour, should be able to charge a fully depleted battery overnight. And then you've got level three chargers, and those are really more commercial applications. So you'll see those, I use the example of the Sam's Club in Pueblo, the big bank of chargers, and those things will charge full charge, well, 80% in 1 to 2 hours. And that's rule of thumb.
They're charging what, vehicles or like,
Vehicles.
not like. What's that thing where the lift trucks and stuff inside the warehouse? or no?
No, those are for public use. Yep,
Okay.
yep,
Okay.
yep.
Yeah. Yeah, these would be the ones that you
Oh,
see,
public.
that you see in parking lots or parking garages or some of the grocery
So they charge
stores.
faster.
The commercial ones
Yeah.
generally do,
All right,
yeah.
gotcha.
What's that, what level is the one you guys have in your parking lot?
Across the,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Level
I
two.
use it all the time.
yeah.
What is it? I'm sorry. still-
A level two.
Level two.
And how does somebody pay for that public use? I mean, is it like sticking a
Mhm.
quarter in the laundromat or?
There are various different ways. Some of them, like, for example, the one that we've got in our parking lot, I think that's free.
It's free, but you have to use you have a card. It's like a
Oh.
computer chip and you just swipe it across there and you're in. Now, if you're at a pay place, same thing, except you're being charged, whereas the Black Hills one, you're not.
But
Yeah.
you like apply for this card so you can use it there?
Yeah, I have,
Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
I have a charge point card.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. And there's
Well, I
different.
mean, These are details
Th-
that come
yeah.
to my consumer mind.
Yep,
you know?
Yep, exactly. And there's different charging companies out there. So there's ChargePoint, there's Tesla, there's Charge America, there's, a number of them. And
And you
so,
would contract with those companies.
Yeah.
to do that.
yeah, and so some of them do charge, they charge a fee. They also charge a car. But so when you sign up for the account,
Uh-huh.
you plug in, you swipe your card and then it keeps track of how much you charge your vehicle. And then it may charge by certain miles, it may charge by time, just depends on how they have that set up.
But you elicit contracts for those charging stations for some of these different people.
So the way that we have it is when they install that charger,
Oh,
we have an agreement that they sign, an interconnection agreement.
Yeah.
And then they still pay us for the electricity.
right, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and I'm trying to remember in Colorado, if I believe vehicle charging has been deemed not competitive. So you don't, in some states, if you went out and you're selling electricity to the public,
Mhm.
you are a public utility by
Oh,
definition.
right, right.
And so there's been a lot of states have gone through and said, well, we're gonna exempt
Sure.
electric vehicle chargers from that section of the code.
I think I read, and I don't know if this was in the federal or state information on it, read recently about the new money for the nationwide network. I have read that they expect it to be competitively priced, but they're not controlling the price
Yeah,
at the charging station.
Kind of like gasoline.
Kind of like that, yeah, that is exactly
Yeah.
what they're trying to, whether it's good or not. what
Yeah,
they're
right,
modeling
right.
it at.
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, I have a question about, say at some point in time, and, this is probably a goal of some government agencies, is I will have one in the garage. Okay, and so is Black Hills going to look at, have you gotten to the point where you figured out, are you gonna look at that as an overall, and so I'm gonna go above a certain, kilowatt when I'm charging, are you gonna charge me more for everything?
Yeah, you talk about demand charge. Yeah.
Are you gonna figure that in?
At this point in time, we do not have a demand charge for our electric vehicle rate. What we've done is gone to a time of use for electric vehicle chargers. And so that helps kind of send a signal to the customer, here's when you should charge and when you shouldn't charge. But we have not gone to a demand charge. There's a couple, there's been a couple rural co-ops here in the state that have gone to a demand charge. I'm trying to remember, I was just talking with somebody the other day about one. I don't remember if it was Colorado Springs or where it was. But yeah, so that again, we would have to go to the PUC to get approval for something like that.
So if you're just plugging into your garage outlet, you don't have a clue whether they're charging a car or just got the
Correct.
3 refrigerators in that hot garage.
Yes,
Okay, just curious.
yes, exactly, especially if it's a level one,
Yeah,
because a level one really is just like an extension. I mean,
right.
it's more than extension cord, but it's really not pulling more amperage or anything that you
Yeah, I
would
had a
normally see out, just a,
C-Max
a
there
large
for a while,
appliance.
but it's plugged in the micro.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and the level twos, we definitely see much more load there. And so, and part of our program provides rebates. And we can, I'll go through the history quick and then we can get into the rebates and some of those things, but good questions are all questions I have as well. So like I said, in 2018, we created an enterprise-wide electric vehicle team. 2019, we launched our Ready EV. Again, that was as a result of Colorado law, Senate Bill 1977, which was passed. And then in 2020 were our first rebates we paid out as a company in January. And then Colorado Electric, we filed our transportation electrification plans. If you hear me say TEP, that's what I mean. And like I said, in 2020, we filed that in May. And then in 2021, it was approved in December. So not quite a year that we've been going with that program. And then in 2022, we launched the program, and we are doing a kind of a big launch in, what is it, August 15th, I believe, in
Next
Pueblo.
Monday, 10 a.m.
Yeah, yep. And so we've got a bunch of things scheduled for that, have some vehicles there and some dealers, So,
We got a representative from the energy office coming down and the mayor's gonna make some comments yeah, and then we'll start to see, we're actually, Julie and I and the rest of our team are working now on getting together some video and photo shoots, so you'll start to see more educational material coming out fourth quarter of this year.
So the rebates paid out.
Yeah.
What's up?
I guess as he's gonna show us.
Yeah, yeah.
Show us.
yeah,
Presentation.
great segue. So with our Ready EV program, we've got charger rebates. We've got, again, and so those charger rebates vary on what level of charger. I think the rebates we do are only for level 2 and above. And I believe it's $750. And like I said, anybody that knows that if I'm off somewhere, somebody jump in and tell me I'm
Okay,
wrong.
I guess what I'm getting at, the rebate, is that for? You just said, Steve, that we pay on our bill this charge. But if somebody's going to get a rebate.
Yep.
That rebate, is that for having a charger in your house, in your
Yes.
garage?
Yep.
So you're gonna get, okay, quote, $750 a year, a month?
One time. So it's upon purchase and installation of a charger, you get $750. Then on the commercial side, it's a little bit higher for the level 3s. Because those again charge faster and are more expensive. And I don't recall what the rebate is for a commercial. I believe.
I think we've got some detail in here.
Do we? Okay.
If not, I might have it in my handouts.
Yeah.
but
What percentage of the cost of the charger does that $750 cover?
So as I recall, I believe it's about half.
Is it?
Yeah.
And I think the way you can think about that, because it has to be installed by a licensed electrician.
Yeah.
And so you cover the charger, you probably don't cover the installation of a 240 volt. So it covers about half, all in,
Yeah.
if you will.
At this time.
And then on the income,
It'll go up.
and then on the income qualified side, if you qualify for a
They try,
rebate,
you know,
then it's $1,500, and so it'll cover the full cost of installation on an income.
What's the,
qualified.
you know what the level of qualification is on that? Is it like X amount for family or?
I was just gonna ask, I don't know, Mike, if you can,
Yeah.
can you tell us?
Yeah, I can jump in and help you a little bit. I didn't quite hear that last question, but yeah.
The
go ahead.
question was on the income qualified, what is the level of income that qualification?
Yeah, great question. There's a couple of definitions. It's 200% of the federal poverty level, or if you're below 80% of the area median income. So it's hard. We don't have quite of a exact number. It's kind of a little bit of a complex definition, but on the rebates, real quick, the residential rebate for a residential customer is $500. And it does cover at least half of the installation, if not more. There's a couple of different manufacturers, as you can imagine. There's a more expensive chargers, there's less expensive chargers, so it kind of depends on what the customer wants. But $500 would cover more than half. If that residential customer falls into that income qualified bucket, they would get up to $1,300, which should cover almost all of the installation for a low income customer. And then for the commercial and government, commercial, we have it's a $2,000 charger for the level 2s for a commercial building. If you're a government entity, you get a little bit more. You get $3,000. So if your city wanted to put some up on your city property, you could get $3,000. And then we have for those DC fast chargers, they are the most expensive, not necessarily from the charger standpoint, but also from the infrastructure on our side that's required to serve that power. They take a lot of power on those DC fast chargers. So we have a cap on the amount that we could use for those DC fast chargers. But it's up to $30,000 is the rebates for those, but.
So is that in addition to whatever other grant funding might be available from the state or feds?
Yeah, that's
That
right.
is, it can be stacked. Yep, for sure.
So I have a question on the income qualified. So the reference was 80% of median income. Is that a statewide calculation, or is that a service area? How is the median income looked at? Or is that countywide or what?
Usually we do it just based on our service territory, so it covers our service territory, which would include Pueblo County.
Pueblo, Fremont,
Right,
Otero, Teller,
Eller.
and Westcliff and Custer. Yeah, I think those five.
Yeah. To be more regional.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that's part of our concern too, because when you look at, when you look at the median income in Denver, it is, last time I looked, about 15,000 more than the median income in Pueblo. And so that's a significant difference.
Absolutely. And it will distort things a little bit if you don't have the right basis.
Yep.
For it, considering the population.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, can't we get the Breckenridge?
You got to have.
Right, so everybody can qualify, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think you're gonna probably won't have to worry about too many income qualified. Who can afford the electric car? They probably do not do itemized tax things, so they're not gonna get any rebate. So it's one of those where I know you were forced to add that, but odds
Yeah.
are.
yeah, that is one of the areas where we're struggling to figure out how do we include that
Encourage
population.
them, yeah.
Yeah, because we don't want to. One of the things that the commission added to our program was a rebate for the cars themselves.
Oh, wow.
And that's kind of one of my concerns as well. Okay. If you are somebody who can't afford that car to begin with, us giving you a rebate. I don't want that rebate encouraging someone to go do something that's gonna put them in financial trouble.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, so it's a struggle that we're dealing with. We're trying to figure out how to help that population. And that's where I think looking at city programs, that type of thing, not only is it, Doug, your point about you're paying for someone else's charger. When you're looking at it from a community standpoint, if there is overall community good and benefit, that's where we want to be. That's what we really want to be doing with our programs. Because it does help the community, helps in how do we help low income and some of those. So it is a struggle, definitely.
So
Hey, Nick,
Ryan,
Sorry,
you
yeah.
might be-
I would just add, on that vehicle rebate, the commission, that was not a part of our original plan. That was, in fact, we opposed it. But the commission added that on. But one way that we're looking at trying to facilitate that is marketing and educating our teachers. Which is somewhat sad to say that teachers qualify for the income eligible program. And also we're looking at targeting college students that try to help as they would also likely qualify. So it is going to be difficult though to find folks, especially in today's car market where prices of vehicles are getting really high. But those are two areas that we're trying to target.
Ryan, you could probably answer this. What's the median income in Kansas City?
Oh, I think in Fremont County, it's probably around 50,000.
50,000? Okay, thank you.
It might even be a little bit lower. 45 is what's.
I think that's the old number.
Is that the old number?
Too many of us retirees have moved in.
So do you, once you get into, I realize you really don't have a feel for it now, but is there gonna be a point where you can let people know this is on average, this is what it's gonna cost you to recharge your car. And then they can compare, you know, versus gas. And, I mean, it's not all about cost, but when the average income is 50,000, that's a big factor.
Yeah,
So they need to know how this is gonna compare with what they spend for gas. Is there a way to do that?
there are several different places on the internet that have done exactly that. And you can punch in what your kilowatt hour rate is and how, you know, size your vehicle, mileage, that type of
I
thing.
think the way that we have here, just in our little committee right now, is that speed.
I sent out to the members of the committee, cost analysis of my ownership of an electric vehicle in the Black Hills service territory at the mileage I'm getting on the Chevy Bolt and so on. Purchase price, rebates, the whole bit, including my one-time installation fee, which is $500 for the level 2 charger, $250 to install it, but I helped, so it actually, although sometimes you see in an electrician shop, you know, $100 an hour, $125 if you help, but this guy he helped me when I built the house, so I got a pretty good price from him. $750 installed, and I was very close to a 210, so a 220, so.
Yeah.
I would say typically more like think $1,000 or a little higher for the rebate, for the installation. And so that's in my experience, and this was 4 years ago, and unfortunately I got no rebate. But it's, if you want, Andrea, I can send you.
You know what, Steve, if you just let me know what the title is, just email me the title of it, I'll find it.
No, it was analysis I did for this group, and I just sent it out.
You said, I don't.
I doubt, no, you weren't in the,
I
Steve,
would
do you
love
have a relatively new house or,
built in 2012.
okay,
It was
so,
the first house in your service territory that had battery backup.
yeah, so it likely was your service was prepared or ready to accept or you had room in your
I got
panel?
lucky. There was an electric dryer that I never used.
Oh, okay,
Right there, 4 feet away.
Yeah.
From the outside wall.
yeah, you did get
So I
lucky.
was able to.
Yeah,
just-
that's the big issue is a lot of times if you've got an older house, your service wasn't.
Yep.
Like I said, you may have,
Like mine.
you may have a circuit for an electric dryer, but you probably don't have a circuit. And the other very interesting thing is there were a lot of municipal entities. Who had. I'm not outlawed, but they had ordinances against. Allowing 220 in the garage because in the past, what was 220 used for? Welders. And people didn't want, yeah, so cities were having problems with people welding in their garage, setting their house on fire, and so they went through and said, well, hey, we can stop this. So there's a lot of communities out there going, oh, whoa, wait a minute, now we've got to amend things to allow 220 for a electric vehicle charger, but so yeah, so a lot of your older homes just don't have it, so that will drive up the cost as well.
Do you have any chargers here?
Oh, here's the details on the rebates. All we had to do is just get to the right slide and then I could have let you guys know, but yeah, so a level 2 is $500, residential income qualified 13, business or multifamily housing is 2,000, government nonprofit is 3,000, and then again, the DC fast chargers is what the DCFC stands for. Direct current fast charging, level 3. And you see those are pretty substantial loads when you're looking at 99 kilowatts or 100 kilowatts. That's more than a house, than a standard house. So they draw a lot of current. And so that's where we are working very closely with. If you're going to put one of these in, you've got to contact us so that we can make sure that our systems will handle it. So working with convenience stores, grocery stores, that type of thing to put those in.
Are there any chargers here in town that you like at your facility or anything?
I don't know.
have some on PCC campus,
There's a
correct?
charger on PCC campus, charger one just put in, there's an E-body. We're waiting on transformers. I don't know if they were supposed to go live last week. I don't know if you guys. We'll turn those live.
Yeah. And I don't think they're our,
Yeah, they're not.
yeah, I don't think
they're not
they're not Black Hills chargers, but they're chargers that have been put in by other entities, but
And we recently had a conversation with the school district. They had the infrastructure kind of in and then, you know, the new school that they built, the infrastructure's there. So we're working with them to get some chargers at that location and another location as well.
So
We
will
just
that,
just started that conversation.
those particular chargers, will they be used only for school vehicles, or can John Doe go in
Yeah.
and plug in?
You know, I think that's a great question that they're gonna be sitting out in their parking lot.
Right,
So, you know, I'd have to imagine that they might be a public charger, but I don't know that answer.
but you need like Steve's little card if you want to charge.
Yeah.
So the person charging pays for the charge.
Right.
And not this old rhino.
potentially, again, it
We'll
depends
see.
on how, yeah, it depends on how it's set up. So the school could set it up to say anybody that pulls up can plug in and charge for free. And the school, then you still have to have the card, but the school would be paying for the cost of that energy. And if it is a school, obviously, you know, residents of that school district are paying for that charge as well. So you're seeing, I mean, it's like I said, it's kind of all over the board. Some places are paying for the electricity and some places are making customers.
There's also a saying about old dogs and tricks, you know,
Yeah.
that gonna come into play here pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you'll see, I mean, right now, there are a lot of places that are not charging a fee. Eventually, as vehicles become more prevalent, I believe that's gonna start. It'll hit their bottom line, and so they'll say, all right, we're not giving away electricity for free anymore. In fact, we've seen. Some of the grocery stores and things of that nature are saying, we're either taking them out or we're gonna start charging for them.
Running a penny to your tomato.
Yeah, yeah. So here's the, again, I mentioned our time of day or time of use, TOU, rates that we have. Really, and again, it encourages charging of the EVs during our off-peak periods, so not when everybody else is using the system. It is required for residential customers who get a rebate. So if you have the charger, but you didn't get a Black Hills rebate, you do not have to go on the time of use, except for income qualified. And then it's also available to non-EV, and I think we talked about that last time.
Question about that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I understood you. So if they got a rebate, they are required to use the time of use.
Yes,
And so if they don't, if they charge off that time, what's that?
then they don't have to have the time of use rate. So if you go out and buy the charger and don't get the rebate, just pay for it all yourself, you can pick whatever rate you want.
Well, I guess I'm trying to understand, if I'm the person who got the rebate.
Yeah.
Then how do you control what time of day they're charging?
Oh, we don't control the time of day. You just go on a time of use rate. So the way the time of use rate works is if you look at the chart there. So you've got the customer, the one-time charge that everybody has the charge, just the customer charge if you've got a meter. So in the summer, if you are doing the on-peak today, it's 26 cents, 26.5 cents. Off-peak is 8 cents, almost 9 cents. The non-summer peak is 17.6 cents. And the non-summer off-peak is the same as the summer off-peak. Now, if you look at the time of day, then that dictates when those things come into play. So the summer rates are in effect from June to September. The non-summer are obviously the other months, October to May. And then your peak hours are 3 to 7 p.m. for residential. So if you are charging between 3 and 7 p.m., charging your vehicle, you will pay the 26.5 cents per kilowatt hour.
Does the whole house go on?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
yeah,
that-
yeah.
And then what are your column abbreviations there?
So then the first column is just residential electric vehicle rate. The second one is small general service electric vehicle rate, and the last column, the third column is large general service electric vehicle rate.
Is there a separate bill, monthly bill? I mean, is the $877 a month, is that in addition to what you're paying for your house?
No, that's the charge you get no matter what. Yeah,
Same customer.
yeah, same customer
So
charge.
if you use your air conditioner, if you use your toaster, if you use your dishwasher, if you use your clothes dryer, anything that you use during that time, TV, lights, you pay triple the rate from 3 to 7. In the peak season and in the off-peak season, you pay double. Yeah, that's the way
I
to
think
think
you
about it.
must have asked-
For the whole
if I'm not mistaken,
whole
didn't
house,
you
everything.
say, John, you guys were working on a way for people to have compare their existing bill versus going on time of use.
We would love to have that tool. I think that is one of the things that we've talked about, being able to, look at your historical use. It's not developed yet. There's a couple of, if you go out to our website, to the Colorado program, there's, I would say 2 or 3 examples, of if you're home and you're running your dishwasher, your AC is on, whatever, and then it kind of gives you some idea.
Well, it'd be hard because who knows when your air conditioner was running and the historical stuff, so.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's where, I mean, when you compare this to your regular rate, if you're on a regular rate class. You can look at it and go, okay, if I'm generally, for me. Family's not home until 5:30, so now I've got 5:30 to 7 where I gotta watch what I'm doing. But if you're retired or you're at home or you're working from home. And you're there every day, and at 3 to 7 o'clock is when it's hottest.
Yeah,
And so if you like to keep it, as you said, so you can hang meat. Then time of use may not be the right rate for you.
right.
And so you just have to kind of look at that and see when are you using your electricity? Or if you're willing to make those changes and say, well, yeah, okay, I'll turn the thermostat up just a little bit in the summer. Versus not, from 3 to 7, and then I'll crank it back down at 7 o'clock.
Would you be willing to share these?
Yeah.
Slides?
Yeah, these
So
are, yeah.
I have a handout on these time of use rates for you, actually.
Because I have to, God forbid I should sit closer because my eyesight's not as
Oh,
good.
well, let me
so
hand them out right now.
Yeah.
One thing I would say is that this is a spoiler alert. I think the future is time of use rates.
Yeah,
And the reason it is time of use rates is that it actually gives you a financial incentive. Not for demand, could be at any time, could be at 3 in the morning. If you had peak demand because you're a factory, you're paying for it at a time when it is not coincident with the highest demand in the system.
Yeah.
You should be, so the financial incentive to users, consumers should be to hold down their consumption at the time when it's most likely to cause the utility to have to expand, invest in an additional generation. Okay, so I think it is the rate of the future. It's not here yet, and it's gonna take a while, and it'll cause internal scuffles, I'm sure, because it's harder to think about. You have to, don't charge your car, then don't wash your dishes, don't dry your clothes, don't wash your clothes, don't do discretionary things from 3 to 7. It's not that hard, but you have to actually consciously think about it. You gotta think about it.
One
So-
minute, is all I've got to my house, I have a gas line. So it's, that's usually. Oh, I know.
So against the grid, right now, your service area. Is it capable? Or are you gonna have to maybe crank up more out of eggs at a time? Or something? To service the future use of EVs? Or do you know that?
Yeah, well, we don't know for sure. But we have modeling, and that was part of the clean energy plan, looking at that modeling. How much is electrification gonna come into play? How much are EVs coming in? And so with all of that and with our historical data. We model that to see, okay, here's where our load is going. And that was kind of the answer to John's question on when we had the chart that showed our load from the last time we were here, some of that is being offset by energy efficiency, some of it's being, but there is some growth there in electrification and some growth in EVs. And there are different scenarios too that we look at and say, yeah, high EV, then yes, we're going to have to invest significantly in our grid to make sure that it can handle it and maintain it. Yeah, so it depends on where it goes. We've been seeing very, very modest growth on the EV side. And so that's what we've modeled, looking out until 2030.
So folks that promote, excuse me, John, go ahead. Folks that promote more use of EVs and such can also probably expect higher power bills in general because of more infrastructure. Is that correct?
Well, for a couple reasons. One, you've got, when you've got an EV, you're using a lot more energy. Especially, if you look at, well, nobody puts a DC fast charger in their house, but when you look at a level 2, certainly is a lot more load than what you were using before. No different than if you just, like you said, went out and bought 3 refrigerators and threw them in your garage. That's more load. So you've got higher costs just simply from more usage. And then number 2, depending on where that happens, then yes, potentially the utility has investments that it needs to make in the grid and keeping pace. That's where, as Steve mentioned, if you've got the time of use and you can reduce that peak demand, potentially you can put some of that off. At the end of the day, you're still going to have to get that energy at some point in time.
Sure.
So we've either got to generate more, or maybe we don't have to build more generators if you can avoid the peak, but you then fill in the rest of the days when you weren't using energy or electricity. You fill those in, and so you've got to generate that electricity somehow.
And you
some
can
way.
subtract your gas bill. Your fuel bill for the gas.
From gasoline.
For an individual.
Really
Yeah.
substantial savings.
Yeah.
And
so
as I mentioned in what I circulated, even with Black Hills high electric bills, it still made sense using, if you recall what I sent out to you. So it was cheaper to run it at 18 cents a kilowatt hour. And I would agree with your last point, which was time of use charging is going to time of use rates will sure as hell send a message to the consumer. Do not plug your car in during that time. Do not do it.
Potentially, there have been a lot of states who have had time of use rates for a lot of years, and it has had little impact.
Real
Simply because people are very busy with life.
Yeah.
They have to manage their household. The last thing they want to manage is the last thing they want to be is an energy manager. And so, but depending on if the time of use rates are set up correctly, it certainly sends a incentive or disincentive, whichever way you want to look at it. But there are a lot of states that, Illinois has had time of use rates for at least 10 or 15 years, and they have less than 5% of their population on time of use.
Yeah, Nick,
The other thing is that I can set up my car so that it'll charge.
Yeah.
You can say, do not charge, or you
During
can
these
only
hours,
charge
yeah.
during this time. And so you can plug it in and it won't charge until then.
Yeah.
So there are just ways to compensate here.
Sure.
The cars are smarter than we are sometimes.
Yeah.
Certainly
Yeah.
smarter than I am.
Nick, I'd jump in, just to add a couple of things. So yeah, just on time of use rates. Xcel Energy is moving to time of use rates for every single customer as the default rate. So Mr. Andrews is right here that the PUC, at least with the PUC, they're moving towards time of use rates. We like to have a little more options for our customers rather than a mandate that might not work for you. So we're stepping into the time of use rate a little more slowly than my counterparts over at Xcel, because it is quite a transition for customers to think differently about how you use your energy. And that's the key. It's not about how much you're using, it's more about when you use. And so that education of customers is going to take time. And the idea is that with all this electric vehicle load that folks project are coming, we don't want that to occur between those 3 to 7 p.m. hours, because that's when all the air conditioner load is. And if you add a whole lot more load during that time, then that requires the utility to go out and potentially build more generation, and then adds even more cost. So that's the point of the time of use rate, is to not use less, but to be more mindful about when you use the time of use rates.
And so I've got a question now, I want to make sure I heard you right.
Yeah.
But essentially you said what your model is based on, this model here, the generation
Yeah,
required is based on past electric vehicle information, and not really based on an 80% carbon reduction by 2030.
it's a little both. So we're looking forward and saying, okay, what do we anticipate that we will see for EV adoption? And some of it is based on historical as well. And that goes again with solar panels, distributed generation. What have we seen? What do we expect? So there's some of it is where do we think it's going based on what we've seen for history and based on what we're seeing elsewhere as well.
Your improvements in Penrose with the substation out west of town, all the poles out there, at the ranch and stuff, as some of this in anticipation of
I can
Low?
take that. I can take that. No, absolutely not. We only had one transmission line that was feeding Penrose and all of Canyon City. And if we didn't have, our plan B was getting step down power from the Wappa power line. And so this second transmission line gives us a redundant loop. And so if we lose our southern line, we could just pick up load on the northern line. So it was a reliability issue that had been identified. Gosh, I think, I want to say 2007 or something like that.
Thank you.
But as we develop,
Somebody asked me the other day
I'm sorry.
if that's been approved and it's in the process of being built.
So Fremont County approved our 1041 permit June 22nd, I think it was. And so we are starting construction of those poles now,
Okay.
through Penrose. And we should start stringing wire later this year, and that'll be in service 2023.
I don't think that would be a 1041, would it?
We don't have.
We don't have 1041 towers in Fremont.
Excuse me, special review use permit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I misspoke.
I did have a question though, just, and you may have already touched on this, but does your metering infrastructure already support the time of day rates fully within your system?
It does. Yep. And to go back, one point on that, that was primarily a reliability project for redundancy, which will significantly improve that. But at the same time, as we design those things, we are designing them for future load and future growth. So the new piece is designed for what we anticipate is coming down the road.
Okay, thank you.
So I did switch slides, and we'll maybe just ask, I don't know, Mike, you want to just touch on this? This is the residential, or excuse me, this is the income qualified slide. You want to just touch on this quickly?
Yeah, basically, as we were designing our income qualified program, the kind of the point is that, you know, we have a specific budget reserved. So we will never run out of money if a income qualified customer chooses or wishes to participate in the rebate. So we will always have dedicated funds available. And on the vehicle rebate purchase there, I kind of talked about that a little bit earlier. That was the program that the PUC commissioners added on to our program. We were not in favor of it, to be honest. I can tell you our position and opinion is that if I'm going to use money that our customers are funding, it should be dedicated to projects that are available to the public as public good projects, not for private consumption. But the commissioners disagreed with us and added a rebate program where income qualified customers could get some rebate there, you see there for car purchases, $5,500 for a new car and $3,000 for a used car. Like I mentioned earlier, we're working with the dealerships to try to educate them on who is available. And then we're working on trying to find who these potential customers might be. Doing, trying to get that program going. It is available. It's an option. So it has a program budget there, a maximum budget of $100,000 per year.
Thanks, Mike.
And that budget is our budget. So in the program, we can spend up to $100,000. But this, again, Doug, your point, that's taking dollars from customers who aren't buying an EV and giving it to customers who are. That was our primary issue with it, along with, we don't see that utilities are or should be in the car business. It's not what we do. It's not what we want to do. But such is the way it goes with the commission sometimes.
I wonder, and I don't know if Steve or anyone around the table would know, but I wonder what the price of a used EV is, if it just needs a new battery, the most expensive of course part of that car, then $3,000 rebate might be the deal, but I don't know what they're going for, if they have a bad battery.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I don't think there's much of a market yet for used EVs.
Yeah,
And I think it takes a pretty significant hit because there's a big concern about how long the batteries will last.
Yeah.
When plug-in hybrids were first introduced, the battery was projected by Toyota to be 100,000 mile battery. They found through usage that it's 180,000 mile battery. So, I mean, experience may surprise you up or down. Some battery fires, gave a huge negative reputation both to the Bolt and to one brand of Tesla. So it takes a while to overcome, takes a while to work out bugs. Fire bugs are the worst, I believe, you can encounter. So who knows exactly what that market will look like. I would say that because the maintenance is generally low and the issue is the battery, if you have a newish battery in an older car, you're probably going to do okay.
Yeah. And like everything, it depends on how you use it.
I drive like a granny. I get a whole bunch of miles. Apologies to the grandmothers here.
Yeah.
So one of the other things that we're looking at is fleet electrification. That's one of the upcoming areas of EVs. So we're putting together a pilot program. We were allowed to do a pilot program in our plan, and so we are collaborating with different transit agencies, either be cities or school districts, and just trying to build those relationships and understand what their needs are and what they're looking for. So we're doing stakeholder meetings, and then we're also, doing a ton of networking with other utilities around the country that are working on some of these things as well. So
This is where the opportunity lies, I believe, for this community. I mean, I want to recognize not everybody's really on board with, electrifying the fleet. However, as you start looking at cost, and if it's strictly a math problem and the math problem works out in the city's favor, why would you not consider it, right? So.
Well, and I know there are, I don't know how many places, number of places that are already electrifying their bus fleets, like Summit County and Town of Breckenridge are working with electric buses in. They were concerned at first whether that would work in a cold winter and all of that, but as far as I know, they're doing fine. So it'd be interesting to maybe the city will gather some information from some of these.
So Pueblo's starting with their police fleet, and they're starting
Right.
with their supervisor cars, the ones that are only used for 2 shifts a day. And so that's where they're starting to focus. I did hear, and this is a little anecdotal because I don't remember exactly who it is, but it was one of the mountain communities. And I don't remember, I think it's a school district that was trying to sell their electric buses because it has not worked out really well for them. So there are going to be fits and starts. There's certainly, no doubt about that. But the idea is a pilot program that can be customized to meet the needs of a community is an option right now. And it's something that we've been literally told, go out and work with your stakeholder groups, and this is where the opportunity lies in this program.
Yeah, we're absolutely trying to find somewhere that we can put together a pilot. Like I said, whether it's a little tram that runs up and down Main Street or, school buses or whatever it might be, just something. So, yeah, there's,
Light rail.
yeah,
And maybe a conversation with the Golden Age Center.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
There you go, there you go.
One other thing I'll mention is, Pueblo Community College. Right now, they are in the midst of kicking off a curriculum that is, specific to, electric vehicles. And they're looking at I'll call them tiers of electric vehicles, from the Volts, to the SUV, to even the heavy duty, what are they, heavy duty trucks, I guess. you call them. So, we're seeing that partnership with even the higher ed institutions, that they want to be prepared in this area.
Great.
I know that this slide was put in by Eric. I don't have a lot of detail here. Mike may have some more, but this just speaks a little bit to the amount of dollars that are starting to be seen as opportunities to fund things like new electric, school buses. I don't know, Mike, do you have anything you'd like to comment on here?
Yeah, I guess just a general comment that even with the infrastructure bill that's pending in our state legislature or US legislature, there's a lot of money coming for funding. And it coming from a lot of sources. And so we've got our team that is really monitoring and watching all the opportunities. And so part of what our team does, and what Eric Lundine's kind of role is to help partner with you all if you all find an opportunity, is to help you all and help our customers and our other organizations that are interested in potentially getting a grant. We're keeping track of what's available, what's out there, not only with our rebates that we offer as Black Hills, but other money that's coming.
Mike, is one of the places you're looking at the USDA funding through their rural development office, state office?
Yes.
Did you hear that? Okay.
Yep.
That's, I know there's a ton of money coming that direction.
And my understanding too is a lot of the way the federal money is coming to each and every state. And with our state, it's likely to go to the Colorado Energy Office. And then the Colorado Energy Office will have applications or rebate forms available. And so that's the way they've done it in the last several years. There was some money from the Volkswagen settlement that went to every state, and the Colorado Energy Office kind of managed those funds for us. I expect that will continue. And we've partnered with the Energy Office. We've helped City of Pueblo receive a number of rebates through that program, and so that's likely to continue, and if not get even bigger with more federal money coming.
I'm curious, now, is there money for training for fleet maintenance crews?
That's a good question. I don't know. Mike, do you know?
Training, I don't
Yeah, for
know.
maintenance, yeah.
There probably is going to be some in that some of the federal money coming, that training is, but I'm not sure.
Just ask differently, out of curiosity, Mike, is that something in a customized program that, as we start to think about it, is that something we might consider?
Sure. Yeah, all ideas are on the table. Yeah.
There's not a lot to do on an EV, is there?
Well,
There's training. I know fire departments have some specific training just because of the safety issues. You don't want to walk up to an EV and start spraying water all over it if it's on fire. And so I know from that perspective that yeah, EMTs, fire departments, the same thing. You don't want to be cutting into using jaws of life or whatever, trying to extract someone. You want to make sure you're doing it safely. So I know there has been a lot of training from an EV standpoint on that side. So maybe less the maintenance and more on the safety, but certainly the maintenance as well, and how to keep the batteries as good as you can for as long as you can from a dollar standpoint, yeah. But really, like I said, the program we have is pretty flexible. It was left ambiguous intentionally so that we could be broad in what we do. And so, yeah, potentially that would be an option for us, so.
You said Pueblo's PD is rolling out a pilot program?
Yeah.
Are they putting in the DC chargers?
They, I believe, are putting, are they level twos, do you know? Yeah, I think they're level twos.
240 volt.
And we're working with them, we're providing some of the infrastructure,
Yeah,
build out on that. So that's kind of another way that we've been partnering.
yeah, and they're also doing a whole new transportation center that we'll be working with them on to see, does it make sense to do some chargers and things like that there as well.
At
Yeah.
some point, they're trying
Yeah,
to
at
get a
some
grant
point,
for
yeah.
their, their federal
Yeah.
transportation grant.
They may have those, is it by next week, those two vehicles?
Yeah, I think I thought they took delivery of their first two. So, but they still have to get outfitted, so probably won't be till first quarter of the year that they're deployed, but
8 to 12 weeks out.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll cover this next slide fairly quickly. So, as part of the EV, the transportation electrification plan, one of our goals is to raise awareness, to make sure that consumers are making informed decisions, to promote the adoption of electric vehicles. And, to really help demonstrate that it is a cost-effective solution to consumers today. And so a lot of what you see when you'll see, this, we talked about a big splash and a lot of the things that are coming forward, it is going to be more educational based. It'll be talking about really, what is the difference in maintenance costs over the life? What is the difference in cost of charging your vehicle versus, fueling it with gas? And so you'll see a little bit of that in our educational efforts and our marketing efforts. It'll really be focused on trying to educate more than it is, getting you to buy a specific vehicle or, adopt today, switch today sort of thing. I will just mention, I don't want to go through this in a really detailed level, but what we learned as we did some research is that there is a fairly there's a low awareness in general, and specifically in the women and low income customer demographic. And so that has become, one of the target markets, is helping to educate those two customer segments, as all of them, of course, but specifically trying to hit those two, because what we found is a lot of females are making their own decisions about buying cars. Sometimes they're the primary, decision maker in the household, but maybe they don't have as much, they're not as aware of what the opportunities are with EVs. And so that's why it's such an important demographic for us to focus on. And then, as I mentioned, we're going to be looking at highlighting consumer benefits. It's all about cost savings for our footprint. It's not really about, from what we've seen, it's not really about saving the planet, right? It's about what does it mean to me on a dollar basis. And so that's what we'll be focusing on messaging. And then this is just a slide that talks a little bit about the channels and tactics, and so not to bore you, but if we have a website up today to give you a little bit of education. It's improving, I would say, almost daily. Social media and digital, of course, are the main channels. They're very cost effective. I mentioned we're going to be doing some asset gathering here in the next couple of weeks. We'll be shooting all day on like 23rd, on the 23rd. And so, you'll see fourth quarter of the year, start to see a little bit more information from us about that. And then I like to speak for Eric because, he's the program manager. He's been very good. So community events and sponsorships, or if there's places that we can be in the community that we can, support events. I think about when we were in the parade, for the Blossom Parade, Eric brought the EV car down and it rolled through on the parade that day. And so just an ability to raise awareness in general. I know at the event that we have coming up that we have, what's the name of the group? The one that's helping us, was it Drive Clean?
Oh, Drive Clean Colorado,
Yeah, they'll be bringing some vehicles down.
closely with them.
Yep.
And they are an advocacy group. They are a nonprofit that will work with other nonprofits to help them buy EVs. And then also, they have a volunteer group that will go into communities and talk about their experience as drivers and that sort of thing, kind of like what Steve does.
So just a little bit of information about what's happening there. And then, just encourage you to get to the website to find some of that information. That's where the rebate forms are. That's where, you can find a little bit more of those personas of time of use rates. And how it impacts, cost for charging, that sort of thing.
I think one thing that we really haven't talked about right now is the impact it's gonna have with state government, local governments as far as a gas tax. There's gonna have to be something done. Like Steve over here, he's driving on the roads without paying for it.
I happened to be in the stakeholder conversations when they were doing some of that bill, and they were actually pretty thoughtful. There's gonna be a charge. I don't know, do you know the amount, Steve?
I forget what it is, but there is a charge.
Yeah, there's a charge
Yeah.
specific to EVs to help cover the degradation of that gas tax.
But as you're talking about some education, that's probably a factor that you need to maybe include in
Sure.
there, that there's legislation that's gonna come because you're not paying for a gas tax like you do through filling up your car at the gas station, and that will be one other cost that you need to be aware of.
Yep, it'll show up on your registration.
Otherwise, you're coming out and you're telling them all of this up front, and then it hits there and it's,
Yep.
just the trust.
Yeah.
Say, well, why didn't you
Unintended
tell me?
consequences.
Yep, for sure.
But it definitely will impact that. So,
Yeah, and there's been a lot of states have started. I know Iowa, for one, that was 5 or 6 years ago. Start for an EV has a higher registration fee
yeah,
than a non-EV.
Yeah, registration fees are higher.
Right?
Oh, especially when you have 10 cars like we do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you guys seen the EV show up at your car shows yet?
Well, actually, Florence, there were four Teslas,
Was there?
and there was a lot of sneering going on.
My
People
husband,
with all the old cars.
oh, well, my husband, car club, and my husband defends the electric cars and all the old parts like him and say, there's a bunch of, and going on and on. It's like that.
Kind of back when they started buying cars and all the horsemen are going.
Right.
"Ah."
Folks just get in a Tesla one time and go for a short ride to.
Got one?
No, but I rode in one. Like,
Our friends that we just visited in Durango, I think, we're talking about distance, you could go on a charge. They have the Tesla S, which is one of the smaller ones. And I think it's 3 years old. They can drive from Durango to Denver on one charge. And that's 370 something miles. And so it's kind of and that's over passes, that it's not towing anything, but it's still, that's a pretty good range.
my car doesn't have that range.
Well, we have, Eric, we've got Eric driving EV. And so he's collecting and has a lot of personal or, data that he can talk about as well. So we'll have to, if you guys are interested, we can get him back down here later, and you guys can pick his brain a little bit more.
As I mentioned in my email about the EV, I offered to drive it, take anyone for a test drive if you'd like to do that.
Would you resend that, Steve? Because I'm not sure I got that.
Okay, I'm just now addressing it. John, I'm gonna send you a copy because I noticed you didn't get one.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
July 25th or 4th, yeah. And Andrea, I'm sending you a
Yeah.
copy. So, yeah, Kathy, anyone else want it?
but your emails go to spam in the
Oh.
city's email system.
Well, we get spam from him too.
it?
No, it says important from Steve Andrews, and of course, everything from Steve. So I look at, but then I check the email address and it's some weird something.
Well, Ashley, we get a bunch of crap that's supposedly from Ashley, but.
Oh, right, I
Yeah.
got one this morning
You're doing-
from the mayor and it was not from Ashley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Need you to do something important.
Yeah. Send me an Amazon gift card, yeah.
I did one thing too is, we've done dealership engagement events. where we've kind of partnered with the local dealerships as they start getting, and actually they're going to be required to carry a certain amount of EVs on their lot. We've done some events with our local dealerships where you kind of bring out some EVs and let folks kind of look at them, and you pop the hood and there's nothing there, which is kind of funny.
That's weird, yeah.
And so if that's something you all be interested in, certainly we could try to work with the dealerships to see what EVs they have there in Canyon City and try to get something scheduled.
Darcy should have a truck in the next month or so, from what we understand. An F-150.
Lightning.
That'll attract a lot of attention, I'm sure.
Yeah.
A lot of folks are curious about that.
What's
Any-
that?
The F-150s.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They had an article, I think it was in, I don't know, I read it last few days about you open up the hood and there's where you put your suitcases.
You now have a truck
Yeah.
with a
truck
front.
with a trunk.
Hey, we had that a long time ago, Volkswagen.
Yeah.
That's right.
My poor dad.
Any other questions on EVs or anything else for that matter?
Very interesting.
Thanks for the.
Yeah, we appreciate your
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, there was one question last time on energy efficiency admin dollars. I don't remember who asked the question, how much the administration was in the energy efficiency, but so in our 2022 budget for electric, it's about 4.3% of our total. And our total is $7 million for energy efficiency programs in our territory. 2023 is also 4.3, a little bit higher program costs or budget of about 7.2 million. And then 2024 is about 7.4 million and about 4.4%. So right in that 4.5 range for all years.
You said your 7 million budget was for what?
That's for all of our programs, all of our energy efficiency
Okay.
programs.
Which you'll hear about in September.
Yeah, we've got a meeting set up, but I just wanted to get that back to you guys.
Great.
Since someone, I don't remember who it was that asked the question last time, but. Or maybe I jotted down my notes wrong, but there you go. There's an answer anyway.
Any other questions for our good folks from Black Hills? Okay, Steve, you want to take it away?
Sure. What I offered to do, I built on, what I offered to do was give another example of a solar home energy bill. And I decided to impose on your by giving you a little context for the comments. To start, you have to start a book. Wait, I can do it in 5 minutes, even though it looks like it's. Around everybody.
You don't have enough.
Can you guys share? I can get, I'll give them. So you got it. No, I don't have it as one file, that color. So the only reason I'm showing you here is that we've had some discussion in the past about the electric generation system in the country. And if you look at this first slide, it shows you where we are. We actually want to point out that in the US, we consume a shade less now than we did in 2007. That was our electric consumption peak. This is consumption. These are the generation sources for it. Let's see, I thought I had the coal is now at 22% there. 20%, no, 22%. Gas is at 38, nuclear is at 19, renewables are at 20, and petroleum, which is oil, is 0.5%. So that's how those go on that chart. I think it's useful to have a context for two things. One, how things are changing, and two, how they're not when it comes to consumption. We have 9% more population now than we did in 2007, and yet we're consuming no more electricity, despite more electrification of some sectors. The second, I'm gonna show you something that you may find a little, some of you are gonna find it hard to believe based on some statements here. So I'm giving you 3 slides and I have 20 for anyone who wants a full copy. From Lazard. Lazard is a publicly owned firm. They're an asset management group and a financial advisory group. Their operating revenues are about 2.6 billion. So this is not Mother Earth Jones or somebody like that. These are pretty high level guys. And if you look at the 3rd page, this is the unsubsidized analysis of all the generations, main primary generation systems that either are or have been built lately. And you start, so what you're looking at in the little bar graphs to the right are the cost ranges for the various different, according to Lazard, and they've done this 15 times. This is their 15th issue. Do it once a year. This is the cost range for example, solar rooftop is the most expensive system of generation available today, costing from 147 to 221. The units are levelized cost, dollars per megawatt hour. Okay, just to give you a frame of reference, PAGS 2 costs about $75 per megawatt hour.
Say that again.
Last year, PAGS, the IPP cost $75, cost $88 the year before that. And the just so you know, so these sort of have a little bit of a frame of reference.
And that's
So-
the second one there, solar.
Commercial and industrial.
Yeah.
Commercial, industrial, then solar community, solar gardens, it'd be the 3rd one. Then you have the utility scale. This is the kind of stuff that Black Hills contracted with, but has had to put it on hold. And you can see that those prices are pretty low. And then you go down with other stuff. Wind is also low. Why is there a range? It depends on where you're building it. Solar in New Jersey isn't as good as solar in Colorado, and so on and so forth. Same thing with wind. Wind isn't as good in Georgia as it is in Tehachapi Pass in California, or Texas or North Dakota. Then you can look at gas peaking, which is pretty high priced to build. This is all to build. This is all to build and over the life of the device. Okay, that's what the levelized cost means. So it means, what did it cost? Construction, operation, maintenance, fuel costs, decommissioning. And you can look at that in all the fine print then. And so gas combined cycle is pretty reasonably priced. Coal is not. And nuclear less so. And a gas peaker that is out at PAGS. It is not particularly levelized cost, means it doesn't look as good, but it's there for capacity purposes. And it's also there because Clark was shut down and they have the ability to replace it. The last one from Lazard is shows you the cost of operating coal, nuclear, or gas operating costs on the right-hand side versus building and operating wind or solar on the left. They're now competitive. So in other words, an old coal plant may cost more to run it built than it does to build from scratch a solar plant. That's what this analysis shows. Okay, any questions before I go to the next one, which is my house? This is, so all that was preamble.
You would expect to see a lot different next year, I would imagine, with
Yes.
20% inflation on materials.
I agree. The hiccup caused by the stoppage in imports from Southeast Asia of solar panels had put all the utility scale projects on hold, and now they're going to be seeing the same kind of thing, I think, as the car industry did. Chip problems, you're going to have panel problems, and it's going to be a couple of years before it works out. And it may be that the prices don't come down to where they were. I think we may have seen a bottom in solar prices, solar panel prices. Last year.
But do you think it'll bring it, manufacturing back to the US at all?
Well, that's part of the purpose of it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's fits and starts. They stopped importing from there. We make so few here that it left the utilities that had committed to projects high and dry. So anyway, all of this came from my offering to do this particular sheet here, which is my house.
We need to give you more of these products.
Yeah, your wife once called and said, give him more.
Anyway, I have 2 meters on my house. One is circled, says house, and the other circled is barn. There are 2 different rates, 2 different customer charges, and so on. If you look at the left-hand side of the house part, you can see what I consumed, which was 323 kilowatt hours in 32 days. And then when I generated, which was 450 kilowatt hours in 32 days. Subtract those 2, and in the middle, there's where I drew the arrow, there's a line that says adjust to banked energy. 127, in other words, went to my quote bank account. I only have to draw on the bank account in December, January, and February when I don't produce as much as I consume.
Let your wife use a hairdryer at all or what?
She doesn't. That's pretty low. If you think about it, this includes car charging. All right, so 323 kilowatt hours, that's pretty low. And what I've done in the back of this. What I've done in the back of this is I've attached a write-up. I was asked, the only reason I came up with all this stuff was I was asked to do a write-up on a financial case for net zero energy building. So that's what the back of this is about that. And so there are more details than you'd ever want to know, but it's there. I wrote it up for a column. So have at it if you feel like it. No quiz. Any questions about the bill itself when you look at it? I got V for volumetric, so that shows you that little to the left there. Then in the middle, on the right-hand side, I've put in a column and scribbled in with pencil as to what if you use the 700 kilowatt hours that is the standard in the rate comparison. Annual rate comparison that CAMU does, the Colorado Association
I would point out
of
that
Municipal Utilities.
we do not have, our average customers do not come anywhere near 700 kilowatt.
I know, and so when I
So
did
that's
the,
why, that's
when-
one of the concerns we have with that is they always use a different number than what our customers actually use. I think our customers are around 580 to 600. So keep that in mind as you're looking at that.
well, I was told it was 630 to 650. So I could be wrong, but that was
Yeah.
told about 3 or 4 years ago, and I did my analysis on the next page, assuming 650.
615 is what I just got.
You got 615? Okay, then I could redo this. I'll redo this next page at 615. But does anybody have any? But the value of the CAMU study is if you were in different service territories and you consume 700.
Yes.
That allows you to compare X, Y, and Z. It's a
Yeah.
very viable and relevant report on that score.
In some ways, but it also doesn't include. Some of those entities don't have to do transportation electrification plans, don't have to do clean energy plans, don't have to do energy efficiency, don't have to do all those things. So those are not included. In that study as
The
well.
Black Hills to Excel comparison is pretty.
And that is much more in line. Yeah.
And I have my
Every-
Excel bill here. like the
Every-
we passed around. It's $17.
How often do you occupy that house?
My husband's there almost full time and he
Okay.
runs TVs in every room and the lights are on everywhere. He is not a
hair
dryer. He doesn't hair dry, but it's in the clothes dryer. But anyway, it's there. for him.
Well, just as I did the EV analysis where I showed you what it costs to own and operate the EV. I've looked at solar system analysis here because that question came up also last last meeting. And this is 10 years of occupancy. Showing showing the year involved on the left-hand column of this sheet, then the annual bill, the annual electric usage. This is this is what I used. This is what I used. What I produced is the next column. There's some oddities in there or some changes. In 2014, I purchased a plug-in electric vehicle, plug-in hybrid. In 2017, we purchased a battery full electric vehicle. In 2015, we had a system outage. So this sort of stuff is in there to account for irregularities, but then I show what the annual production credits are from Black Hills. I get paid because I produce a certain amount of electricity. They don't, once upon a time, they gave $4.50 per kilowatt of $4.50 per watt installed on a solar system on your roof, and that's all they did. Later, they changed it to 75 cents. When I bought this and installed it in 2012, they changed it to 75 cents and then gave you a production credit, which, as I mentioned last week, is a much more balanced and better way to do it, because if your panels are shaded by trees and so on, you shouldn't get the same credit as for somebody who is producing more for the system. And so essentially, I show you what I think that the savings are. There'll be a little bit less than the 12,000. If we took 6/15 out of 650th, it'd probably be 11,000 and change for savings over 10 years. The energy production tax credit, the one-time rebate, that's the 75 cents a watt, and the federal tax credit. Total benefits were 29,500 bucks. Total install cost was 25,000. The savings on the solar system over the 10 years have already been accrued at 4,500 bucks. However, I replaced the batteries in that time at 2,500 bucks. So the real savings over 10 years have been $2,000.
So what was your total square foot per building, looking at all the insulation and all the things?
That's what is attached here.
Yeah,
The other way to look at it is to how much additional mortgage can you afford if you're saving $1,000 a year?
like that.
And it depends on whether you're talking about the mortgage rate 2 months ago, today, or 2 months from now.
Yeah.
Okay, when I did this, it was $17,000. So apart from the solar system, which is paid for itself, you could justify $17,000 more in energy features to get you there.
Right.
And indeed, I was an residential energy consultant. I worked for large builders and so on. So I knew how to put all the bells and whistles in my own house, and I built my own house. And spec'd it and was on the job swinging the hammer and all of that sort of thing throughout the process. So I got it built for about $100 a square foot, which wasn't bad. Which wasn't bad. So there's more than you wanted to know. That it's more like 10 or 15 minutes instead of 5 with a little conversation. But if there anything else that you have questions about?
Thank you. It's a pretty.
Yeah, very, a lot of work when you do.
Sure.
You enjoy that stuff.
Yeah, I'm an energy nerd. I mean, hello, why am I here? I'm an energy nerd. But actually, I'm here because I think I'd like to be able to contribute to the conversation as you guys go forward. And I can
I'm
bring.
not an energy consultant. We-
Any other questions or comments or anything else that we need to discuss? Yes, sir.
Yes, I'd like to bring up a question. Have we satisfied our charge from city council?
Okay. So is that a way to ask whether we should continue to go forward as a committee? Or is
Come see,
that-
come
bring
saw.
that up for topic?
Come see, come saw. Are we, it appears that a lot of other stuff is creeping in. I'm sure these folks in Black Hills are getting paid fairly decently to whatever, and I'm just wondering, have we satisfied our charge from council?
Okay. Here's the resolution. It says Canyon City recognizes the importance of energy. Whereas the city understands the desires of the community to look at varying energy options and opportunities. The city desires that we work together to do that. Okay, to review, evaluate, and make recommendations concerning energy options for the city. Okay, and other than that, it's process stuff. But really, that's kind of the heart of it, is to review, evaluate, make recommendations, and consider concerning energy options for the city. And so the one way to answer that question, we're just talking.
Sure.
Not any.
I mean, I enjoy coming to the meeting,
Sure.
but have we satisfied our charge?
So one way to answer that question is, do we have a new franchise? Does the city have a new franchise? Or do we have a new arrangement for energy options? And the answer to that is no. Right. Okay, so at that level, no, we haven't, completed. The other way to ask the question is, well, will we ever be finished? Will there ever be an end point to the committee? And that's a fair question too, because at some point, there's diminishing returns and there's other factors that come into play. One of the factors is the city is, has intervened in not the rate study,
The clean energy plan.
clean energy plan that's in front of the PUC. Okay, and so as part of that, the discussions we're having here can inform council about those kinds of issues. So it's not a, from my perspective, it's not a question, easy answer. But one that is appropriate to ask and say, gee whiz, guys, are we ever done? Is there ever a finish line here? And what does the rest of it do?
I mean, we don't have to discuss this in front of Black.
I was just gonna say, if you would like us to leave, we will happily leave. Because it sounds like this is a conversation you guys should have.
That the committee needs to discuss
Exactly,
without.
exactly.
Well, I could say this in front of you guys. I think it's very helpful having Black Hills come here and go into more details about what their programming is, so that we have an idea of what the true options are. So I think at that point, I appreciate what you guys have been doing here and look forward to hearing more information from you, because it's very beneficial.
It gives us the complete package of what we're.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly.
There's a lot of things.
Absolutely.
And we are happy if there are any other questions, presentations, anything else that you guys need from us, please reach out. We're more than happy to help any way we can and provide any information that you guys may want or may need.
I do have a question, I guess, just reminded me that some months ago, I don't remember how it was worded, but Black Hills, I believe, was asking that the city put the franchise on the ballot again this fall. And as far as I know, we're not doing that, but it might be good to just clarify that right now with you all here. If there's any other comment, then my expectation is that that's not on our ballot. But we don't think we talked about it, so.
And I don't think the committee has that as the goal to get that on the ballot by November. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, and I think that is the window closed for that, Ryan, or is closing very quickly?
Yeah.
It would take 2 readings and we only have 1 meeting left.
Sorry, but.
Yeah. We certainly think there's value in a franchise because it just sets forth the agreements on how we provide service and can help the city from the standpoint, if there are certain things that you want or, you know, from your utility. We continue to serve and will continue to serve Canyon City without the franchise. Because we do,
You have to.
well, we have to, but we believe that our service, I mean, as I think you've heard me say, we provide life critical services to our customers. And
Absolutely.
that is our goal is to provide the most reliable service that we can. And we will absolutely continue to serve our customers because that's what we are here for. So we're not going anywhere from that standpoint, with or without a franchise, like I said. We continue to operate as if that is in place. And so really from the standpoint, we look at it, it's more probably the city. As you look at your budgets, if you've got a franchise fee, there's dollars that go to the city from that standpoint. And if there are certain things that you want done by the utility or how the utility does it, but we're still gonna provide the service, gonna provide the same service. We try to improve our service on a daily basis. So from that perspective, you know, we're continuing. At the same time, we are internally looking at options and if there are things that we need to be doing to help or whatever, from that standpoint, you know, we're looking at those as well. So, but overall, I mean, you heard Kelly and you've heard me both say, we are about partnerships. And how do we work with the people that we work with on a daily basis? And how do we improve those relationships? How do we do what we do better? That is our focus. That's what we try to do on a daily basis. I can tell you, the people of Black Hills firmly believe in our customers and care about our customers. So.
One other thing, if you guys could keep up to date with the new legislation that is half the way there, as far as some of the reading I've done, they've talked about community gardens for lower income.
Mhm.
And they've also talked a lot about giving credits for geothermal systems. And how the geothermal systems, how that will decrease, well, it just heats from the earth. And then how much.
Yep.
How does that impact, how much electricity does that actually take, you know, because a lot of people, I don't think have thought about the geothermal as being an option.
And you're referring to the federal legislation that the Senate just. passed this weekend.
Because I've read some stuff where there's provisions for. Like the community solar and there was a lot about giving tax credits for the geothermal installations.
Yep.
That might be interesting to see if we can get some information about the middle school, because it's got geothermal.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's a new one, right?
Middle school
Carol?
on Main Street.
Oh, Main Street.
Yeah, I believe so. I may be wrong.
From
but I
way-
don't think
You're
so.
right, you're right. I asked the question, and I'm not sure that.
Well, I've heard that during this reconstruction, that they had to make some changes, but the field was not touched where that system is. So, I'd just like to know the status on that.
It might be good to talk with the school district more broadly about
Yeah.
that, but also about some of the other energy statements.
Do you have a special rate for people with geothermal or anything?
You know, I don't know if we do.
No, I have heard it does.
I don't think you.
I don't think so. Geothermal it's pretty specific.
It is.
You've got to have the right situation and,
There's more than one. kind of
Yeah,
geothermal.
yeah, and
What we're talking about is using the retained heat in the earth.
Yep.
To pass air through to preheat. or
Yep.
cool,
Yep.
You know.
Yeah.
And the other geothermal is actually steam.
Correct.
Right, you know.
Yeah.
Correct. And in both cases, it takes the right situation and government buildings, schools are great because it's a very long payback. And so in those situations, you assume as a school or a city, you're going to own your building for 40, 50 years or longer.
But my whole point
But
was you're
yeah.
gonna have the tax.
But with the
credits for that.
with the tax credit, it certainly brings
Yeah.
that payback down. Yeah, absolutely.
And so Doug, the other answer, so we kind of talked about one bookend of the answer to your question, which is, are we ever gonna be done? The other bookend is that it says review, evaluate, and make recommendations. And we have done that. And so another way to look at it is that we actually have completed something. You know, it may not be, have a real firm ending point, but we have done those things for council. And so another way to look at it is, have we fulfilled our purpose? Yes, we have. Is there more purpose out there? Probably,
Sure.
So,
Okay,
Well, we had a proposal today, in essence, with the fleet management. Or fleets, is that an option for the city to look at? So there's new stuff coming to the table all the time, like John said.
so in terms of franchise, if there is some future point of new franchise, we could also declare victory there, But right now, we'll probably just keep, play on the way. Are you good with that?
oh, I'm fine with it. No, I'm just fine. We have heard from several different companies, energy providers. At this point, it appears to me that we're not going to get any better deal from anybody else. And naturally, they say it's going to do nothing. Energy costs are going to do nothing but go up. Okay, so my question was, have we satisfied our charge? And I guess, and you've answered that, I think we just keep going. But do we need to require, or do we need to have, if they don't choose not to, and I'm sure they do choose to be involved. I would if I was a company that tried to keep going with an entity or with the city. But does Black Hills need to continue to provide a lot of information to us on a bi-weekly basis?
Well, that's a question for Black Hills. That's within their control, and it's appropriate for them to ask and answer those questions themselves to see how it works. Because if we're sitting here talking about franchises, and like you said, and if I was Black Hills, I don't want to be here.
Sure.
Hear what was being said.
Sure.
So that's a question for Black Hills, and we're not requiring them. They're under no compulsion to be here. But it's right now, it's a coincidence of interest that we're all here at this table talking.
We are
Thank
happy,
you.
we are happy to answer questions, provide, I mean, it's something that, we do in all of our communities as much as we're asked. And some maybe more than we're asked, but no, we are absolutely happy. I mean, that's again, going back to, Kelly and I are both very firm believers in partnerships, and you can't be a partner if one side is not partaking in
Exactly.
conversation. So that's where we are.
Yeah, I think that this committee, it's been, from the standpoint of city council, I believe that it's been an excellent vehicle to allow for these detailed conversations that aren't gonna happen at city council meetings. So I really think it's, even if it's only the dialogue with Black Hills, it's been very helpful to have the committee as a team.
I'm gonna have to crawl under the table and unplug this because I have another meeting at noon. But I do want to I'll just mention, we had made an offer to the city to have some sort of cooperative agreement. These are the sorts of programs that I speak to when I say that those are the opportunities. At some point, I would really like to sit with staff and work through some of these and figure out, where those priorities lie, whether it be with fleet electrification or demand side management, energy efficiency, and see if another thing we talked about was modeling alternate franchise fees because that was a concern, right? Was a tax on a tax, and you can do volumetric, you can do flat fee, you can do other options. And so at some point, I think there would be value in actually working with staff to model some of those things to bring back to the committee. So, thank you for letting me.
Sure. And unless somebody has something else, I think we're done. Thank you, Steve, for being here.
Yeah.